Hi, hello everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Prof. Francisco Lapenta. Welcome to joining us today. We are very happy to have you on the session. My name is Hussein Mahadi, and I'll be the moderator for today's session on artificial intelligence and technology. As we all know, today is the week one of the headquarter of JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program, and our topic for today is utilizing artificial intelligence to solve challenges. And we have three mentors that will be joining us today. Of course, Mr. Professor Francisco is on the call. We also have Mr. Kelly and Mr. Gabriel Udo. It's afternoon over here. I don't know, maybe it's morning over there. Good morning, Professor Lapenta.
Hi, good morning.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, Idiongo, Chijoke, and Olivia Sadiq. Thank you very much for joining the session. We are still taking in more mentees in the session, and I encourage everyone to put on their videos while on the session. Quickly, before we move on to the business for today, I will be making a few announcements and handing over the floor to Professor Francisco to give us an overview and an introduction on the topic for today.
All right. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. No, I mean, this is been already it's the second time that I'm participating to this wonderful initiative, and the more I think about it, the more I find it valuable. So I'm really grateful to be part of this program that you are attending.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. Quickly before you start, let me make a few announcements. All right. Thank you very much. So for those of us joining the program for the first time, I will be making a few announcements. Kindly pay attention. JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program is a quarterly program for students and young professionals across Africa. Mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable advice, training, network, mentorship, internship, discussion forum, industry updates, and resource materials from experienced mentors. The program seeks to encourage continuous training, development, and evolution in Africa and around the world. And of course, you can watch our videos on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook by searching for the word JIIPC. Some of the objectives of the program is to provide easy access to quality professional guidance, training, and resource materials for students and young professionals in Africa, to facilitate dialogue and network among experienced and less experienced practitioners and stakeholders, transform mentees into mentors and leaders for the next generation, and to facilitate further mentorship, internship, scholarship, and job placements for its mentees. Quickly, I will also be taking our mentors profile before I hand over the floor to Professor Francisco. So I'm starting with our mentor on the call right now. Francisco Lapenta is the founding director of the John Cabot University Institute of Future and Innovation Studies. Currently, he is also a Mozilla Ford Research Fellow. Please mute yourself if you are not talking. Okay. And the technical editor of the IEEE P706 standard on personal data artificial intelligence agents. His research focuses on emerging technologies, innovation technologies, governance and standardization processes, ethics and impact assessments, and future scenario analysis. He holds a PhD in sociology from the University of London, joint supervision, Goldsmiths College, and the London School of Economics. The PhD was awarded a research grant by the ESRC, Economic and Social Research Council UK. He has
Thank you very much.
He has worked as Associate Professor in New Media Studies and Business Innovation at the Department of Communication, Business and Information Technology at RUC University, Denmark from 2009 to 2019, and Assistant Professor 2007 to 2009, Visiting Professor at New York
Thank you
University.
very much. I think it's okay
Right.
to read the whole thing, because I rather focus on the conversation with us. One thing that is important. So let me start as a premise to this. No. So I've been involved in the past few months with an initiative within the United Nations that is called the Pact for the Future. I don't know if you ever heard about it. Basically, the United Nations Secretary General Gutierrez started this global consultation for a 2 years period that will lead to the publication of this document that is named the Pact for the Future. The Pact for the Can you mute?
Yeah, I've done that, sir. I'm sorry, you're muted. You're muted.
I was telling you about this initiative from the United Nations, no? So I think it's an incredibly important conversation that is happening via one of the most prominent global institutions, the United Nations, to write this document that is supposed to be a pact for the future generations, on the future of the future generations. And there's different areas that are covered in this pact. And one of those is obviously the digital. So that's the one I like to focus a little bit today upon. So first of all, let me tell you that I want to take this opportunity to call you to cooperate together, utilize this network to make your voices heard. I think it's really, really important that you are together, all of you, utilizing and leveraging the network that has been created by this program that you participated to understand that you need to be proactive in making your voices heard on the global stage. I think you have a really important critical mass. Even the students participating at this program today, I think, I don't know, Hussein, tell me, they're probably 40 in all or something like that. And
yes, we have over 45 mentees.
Yes.
In the
So don't think, dare to think big enough. I think you have an incredible critical mass of talented people with an incredible education and understanding. This is an opportunity for you to work together and contribute to this global discussion. What I can tell you from the background of this conversation that is happening at the United Nations, specifically on the digital and the artificial intelligence, is that there's a more and more awareness that the voices from the global South should be heard. I would almost encourage you to work on a document where you're demanding to be included in as many tables as possible. I would help you select some of the important venues or the important conversations where I think you should participate. Because I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview today of what I think is really happening with artificial intelligence and how it can be both an opportunity but in reality, the risks of AI becoming another tool for social discrimination and for inequality, in my view, are incredibly high. They're getting higher and higher. The chances of AI reinforcing the gap, both social, economic, and the participation gap, the representation gap, I think is incredibly high. There's a lot of attention on it. There's a lot of discussion, but I can tell you that a lot of it is superficial. And all these conversations are happening without a strong participation of the communities that should be at the table, bringing their own voices, like yourselves. So there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of willingness to have the Global South to participate, in Africa specifically, but there's also a struggle to understand who the voices are and what the requirements and the demands are. So let me give you, before I get back to this point, let me give you a bit of an overview what I think it's happening with technology in general. Please bear with me 1 second. I mean, part of this is normally very clear to you, but it's important that I spell it out for the sake of making clear what my argument about artificial intelligence as a possibility for change, but also as a possible threat of further cementifying the socioeconomic gap that exists is. Now, when you think about technology, so we do understand that technology is inherently human. It's anthropocentric. It's been designed by humans for human needs, no? So if you look throughout the history, through different stages, so if you start from the early tools that were developed for human life, for agriculture, transportation, construction, healthcare, communication, even warfare, what you look historically through the overview of the development of technology and how it operates on society is that this technology initially were developed to meet local needs. I mean, if you look at the technology and the way they were developed throughout humanity, a fundamental stage of technological development was basing on diversity. Technologies were developed based on local needs that were intertwined with local cultures and customs. So you had tools that were designed by the communities for the communities, and they were both embodying kind of technical solutions, but they also were part of a cultural dimension that belonged to these specific communities. Now, what happened is that over time, these technologies have become increasingly more localized, more concentrated in the hands of very few. And so you started to have this history that moved from technologies that were developed for local communities to technological solutions based on a specific model, which is the scientific model, incredibly powerful, incredibly good at solving technical problems, but dominated by a minority that started to transform the way in which technology were used. Because these technologies that initially throughout humanities were mostly developed by local communities for local purposes and with cultural understanding of the needs and also the specificity of the places in which these technological solutions were used. Because of the very nature of the scientific model, because of the way the forces have started to govern innovation, you started to have a much more centralized way of developing a technology. So you have a technology that is designed in California, made in China, and then adopted by all the world. But what that designed in California means is that you have a niche community that lives in California that is designing a technology based on the local culture, based on their own personal expertise, that then is adopted broadly and worldwide. Now, this is something you're very familiar with, right? I mean, you all know that you have read on many devices that you use this sentence, designed in California and made in China. was made popular by Apple products, for example, no? But what is interesting about the history of technologies that we're telling you about, if you think about all these technologies that were initially developed in localized communities, is that the remnants of these technological evolutions are still there. The history of humanity hasn't forgotten any tech that has been developed in the past 200 years. If you look around the world, you will find communities that are using tools that were designed hundreds of years ago. What is happening is that there are certain tools that have become more dominant in the way in which you build housing, in the way in which you develop transportation and whatnot. There are dominant models that are governed specifically by very specific geopolitical communities. So what you have this, you have a new model that has created and resulted in the biggest gap between nations and society, and resulting in the creation of the largest disparity in technological adoption in humanity, in human history. You have a technological process that has created the winner-takes-all mentality or business model, the dominant. So what you have is that whenever you have financial investments always, the bulk, the biggest financial investments, they always move towards the most developed emerging technologies, creating further advantage for the minority that are using these very advanced technological solutions. So you have a history in which there was some form of equality, and then the scientific method and the technological innovation have created a new model in which more and more advanced technological solutions were afforded to a minority that uses the technologies for social, economic, and cultural advantage, creating an historical gap that is unprecedented in terms of wealth and distribution of wealth, right? So technology has been fundamentally an incredibly powerful tool for humanity because it has created incredibly advantageous transformations, but it's also created and strengthened this incredible social economic gap. Now, part of it, you have to understand, it's not anybody's fault because technological innovation is always unequal, is never egalitarian. It's the very nature of technological innovation to be not egalitarian. Let me explain you why. Whenever someone thinks about a technological innovation, the way it works normally is that you have a small community of individuals that are thinking about that technology, right? So someone is designing the technology. Look throughout history. I mean, for every single technological innovation, from the engine to artificial intelligence to OpenAI to ChatGPT, what you have a small group of people that are working on the new emerging technologies, one of the possible emerging technologies. And normally it's a very small community because it's a very small number of people in the world that has the knowledge or the creativity to work on something very specific. Now, obviously, once a technology is developed, what happens is that a small community will start to use it. This small community normally is composed by technological experts, people that have the expertise to use technology that are not yet ready for massive consumption. You need a lot of technical knowledge to use a technology that is still rudimentary, right? So you will have only a community of experts that will be able to use that technology. It's also not globally distributed. Normally it's a small group of people somewhere that is using the tech, right? Now, I've been, for example, a beta tester of ChatGPT for 2.5 years, right? Almost 3 years. So I was part of a very small community of people that use that technology because I had technological expertise to be part of that niche community, correct? So if you look at technology, how it works, on one side, it's structurally designed to be unequal, because it will always be based on the creativity of an individual, a group, or an organization that is thinking about the technology of the future, is working on it, and very few people know about it. Very few people have the technological knowledge to use it. So this is a natural thing. This is it's not based on any cultural values per se. It's part of the technological process itself, that it starts as something designed for the few. The problem is that the model that has fueled technological innovation for the past 100 years has privileged a very small community. So what happens is that to use the most advanced technologies, it's not enough anymore to have that technology, because you need all the infrastructure that are necessary to have that technology to function. Give me an example. To give you an example, electric cars. Yes, you can buy an electric car. Potentially, you can buy a Tesla, right? But you will not be able to use it if you don't have the infrastructure that is there to support that technology. So there's two dimensions that are important to understand. One is this intrinsic nature of technological innovation, which is never egalitarian. The other one, you have a model that is strategically using the competitive advantage of this minority effect of technological innovation to govern at the macro level, at the global level, the way in which resources are used. So what you have is that the societies that are most advanced in technological development normally are the ones that are using resources worldwide to feed their own system to their own advantage. So technology has been very, very important for societies, but has always privileged a minority. If you look worldwide, you know very well, I mean, if you think about electricity, 1 billion people are living without electricity today, right? We're talking about general AI, we're talking about the future of humanity and the future of technological innovation. But yet, on this planet today, you have 1 billion people that is struggling to access electricity, correct? You're familiar with specifically of this complexity. So I don't want to preach you about the complexity of access to the most advanced technological innovations, right? So part of it is a matter of scarcity. You know, some technologies are based on scarce qualities, right? The components, the materials are very difficult to source. They're very difficult to build. This becomes the leitmotif discourse, right? This is the most common discourse. But what I want you to be aware of is the cultural roots of technological innovation, is that these technologies are always designed for specific communities. If you think about the most advanced technologies, they're always designed for the most advanced societies that have the infrastructure, the social and economic infrastructure to be able to afford these emerging technologies. So you have this curve where you will have a minority that is always ahead in the use of the most advanced technologies, and then you have the rest of the population in the world that is always going to be behind. This has been a constant in technological innovation. Now, artificial intelligence seems to promise great changes, right? Now, let me tell you, when you develop a technology, normally that technology should be designed to solve human problems. If you ask me, the only way and only reason why we should design artificial intelligence is to eradicate the social economic gap that exists in the world right now. The entire effort of developing artificial intelligence should be based on solving the problem of social economic inequality. Design a tool, a technological is just a tool. It shouldn't be designed to give further advantage to a minority. The only reason why I think of artificial intelligence to be developed is to be totally designed to work on how to solve the problem of solving the social economic gap that constitute the bulk of human reality today. Now, as you know, this is not likely to happen without any intervention. The way in which artificial intelligence has been designed is clearly based on an old model that, let's call it the scarcity model. The scarcity model is based on the fact that technological advancement is very scarce for the reasons I was telling you about. One is cultural, one is control, the other one is the inner works of technological innovation. But what is specific about artificial intelligence is that it's feeding on data. Now, data, which are normally referred to as the new oil, you probably have heard all these conversations about data being the new fuel of the new economy, and especially in artificial intelligence. Even from the papers that you submitted, the ones that you sent me, I think it's very clear that you understand how valuable data are, but also how risky they are. For example, you're very familiar with the conversation about the risks of cultural bias in artificial intelligence, because of course, if you have a system that is shaped and transformed and constituted by a specific set of data, of course, that algorithm is going to respond to the qualities and to the groups that generated those data. So they will inherently have a cultural bias when the data that are used are the ones that belong to specific social economic communities. Now, a lot of it is scientific data. This is very powerful. The conversation about scientific data is very powerful. One of the immediate effects of artificial intelligence in the future is going to be the acceleration of scientific discovery. Scientific discovery and scientific knowledge is a lot more neutral than other qualities of data, right? I mean, if you think about physics, mathematics, or other engineering problems, these belong to the realm of scientific knowledge, which is a lot more neutral compared to other form of cultural data. But the problem is that these scientific knowledges, if you, for example, consider generative AI, like JIIPCC, the scientific data are always embedded in other cultural data. The model is never developed only for scientific purposes. It's always a combination of mixed data. So what you will have forms of discrepancies or forms of cultural, I call it cultural hegemony. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that, but it's specific value systems that are embedded in the training of an algorithm that are mixed with other data that we might consider more neutral, like scientific for data, but is giving to those scientific elements specific cultural connotations. As I said to you at the very beginning, you might argue that science is neutral. You might argue that physics is neutral. You might argue that engineering is neutral. But in reality, they are always shaped by specific cultural understanding. You always bring in the process of creativity your own personal cultural understanding. So whenever you have the community in California designing products, their understanding of reality, their cultural values will be embodied by the technologies that they develop. And this is ever more true today for anything that is in the digital realm than it was before for other technological solutions that were somewhat independent from this discourse. For example, you might think of trains as being a technical solution to a problem of transporting humans from point A to point B, right? Let me give you this story because I think it's really wonderful. Let me tell you how culturally biased even technological solutions can be. Now, for example, do you have any idea of why the train tracks, the distance between train tracks are very specific? They're an odd number. They don't have a very specific number, but they are worldwide. They all adopt the same width, the same distance. So at some point in history, that distance became a standard. So first in Europe, then in the States, and then worldwide, the distance between the two wheels of a train is fixed. Now, can you tell me why do we use that distance? Do you have any idea of what's the history of that specific distance? Why is the distance between the two rails that one specific, and who created it? What is it based on? Do you have any idea?
I don't have any idea. I don't know. If anyone on the call has any idea, you can unmute yourself and tell us.
So,
Right, so
it was more it was more tentative. I don't assume that you know, but basically the distance was based on the Roman imperial carriage. So during the Roman Empire was a lead in standardization. So they created obviously a military force that was very powerful, dominated all of Europe and beyond. And they created a very standard carriage where the distance between the two wheels was standard. Now, the reason why it was standard, because at the time, the streets were paved with stones. Carriages going in the street would leave marks. Over time, these marks would dig in. And what happened is, if you didn't have a standard, carriages that were outside of the standard would break because they wouldn't be able to fit in the dips that were carved into the stones by other carriages. So over time, all over Europe, you started to have these streets paved in stones with two deep-in signs that were based on the military Roman imperial carriage. What happened is that thousands of people had the tools to build carriages that had specifically that distance. So imagine all the people that were building all the carriages all over Europe, and then they moved to the States and whatnot. That know-how, I've learned from my father how to build a carriage, and that's how we build it. This is the side of the wheel. This is the tools we have. They were using the same tools. So over time, you have an entire industry that was based on a cultural definition of a carriage designed by the Romans. And to this day, that design is used all over the world for trains. So what I'm trying to explain to you is that the link between engineering and culture, it's very, very strong. So when you talk with most engineers, they will tell you that solving problems in engineering is neutral. But if you look at the history of technological innovation, you will see the power struggle to define these technologies. One, technology is designed to solve needs. Well, whose needs are prevailing? Because the technology are, yes, designed to solve needs, and the way in which they do it might belong to the neutral realm of physics and mechanics, but the needs themselves, so whose needs is technology solving, whose problem is technology solving, is very much a cultural bias problem. Now, imagine what that means to the entire design of a new transformational technology as artificial intelligence, where all the data, all the scientific data, all the existing technologies were designed by one specific model that wanted the one minority to lead and govern the vast majority of the world. The cultural embodiment, the cultural hegemonic value of technological innovation of the data that are used to train AI are gonna reverberate for centuries if we don't change it. Because this is like the carriage, it's like the train. Once the standard is created, it's very difficult to transform the infrastructures, because once you have created a system where the standard is based on a specific form of knowledge, it's going to be very, very difficult to retrain AI to embody different voices, to embody different needs, to embody different cultures. Do you follow? So artificial intelligence is, if you look at it right now, I can see even how you speak in the papers that you presented, you're voicing the industry's main narrative. AI is going to be very powerful. It's going to solve problems. It's going to allow us to do this and that. Whose problems? What problem do we want to solve? What problem do we want to solve? Is it a game about solving the problems of the minority? To give better tools to the minority? Because as it is right now, this is the direction this is leading to. Now, let me tell you why I urge you to refrain from using ChatGPT and the like for your intellectual work. Whenever you use ChatGPT, there's two things that are going to happen. One is the reinforcement of existing narratives. I can see it again and again. I can see when I read papers, I can see when it's inspired by ChatGPT, because I see the lack of criticism. I see these global narratives and topics that are repeated. Then you can change the words so that it's not plagiarism, but you're all reading from the same book. Think of any generative AI as not this mass collection of knowledge, but as one person that has read all those books and is telling you the story about those books. It's the equivalent. It's like, if you take 100 people and these 100 people all over the world read the same 100 books, right? All over the world, Africa, Japan, and the assignment is, I give you 100 books. We all need to read those 100 books. Then we talk with these 100 people and say, based on what we read, how do we solve these problems? People are going to come up with very different solutions because their embodied experience and culture, their understanding of the problems in their own culture is going to transform the way in which you interpret this data, these 100 books. Now, what happens if we all use ChatGPT? Whose knowledge are you going to reproduce? Whose values are you going to reproduce? Whose agendas are you going to reproduce? It's an incredibly vicious problem where, once again, the majority will be able to control the minority, will be able to control the majority. Because those are very powerful tools. They're very easy to use. They solve a lot of problems to us. They make our life easier. If you have a home assignment, if you have to do something, it's a lot easier to interact with ChatGPT. But the reality, think about it. Everybody's using the same tools. And whose voice are you going to reproduce? Is the equivalent of everybody's using the same encyclopedia? Is the equivalent of everybody using the same 100 books and blindly using only these 100 books. But imagine that these 100 books belong only to one country, belong only to one culture. What is the advantage of the entire humanity using the same 100 books, the same data? So it's incredibly important that you understand the advantage of artificial intelligence, but the AI as it is designed now, it's bound to repeat what technology is being transformed into in the past 100 years, because technology wasn't designed like that at the beginning. If you go at the beginning of history and you look at the way in which humans started to use tools, as I said, you will see they're very local. They're embodied in culture. They're embodied in rituals. They embody in local values and local voices. Then it's simply the scientific discovery, which has been incredibly powerful, and it is incredibly powerful. But we don't have all the same problems. We don't have all the same cultures. We don't have the same values. I like to live in a world, in a home made of stones. Someone lives in a home made of concrete. Someone wants his house to be made of wood. Why? Because there's more availability of these components in my culture, because there's specific values for me in living in a home made of stones and wood instead of concrete and iron. I'm just oversimplifying. But so what should AI be designed for if it's really supposed to be what we want it to be? As I said, the only reason for me to design AI is to solve human problems. And the only reason why we should design AI is to obliterate the social economic gap that exists today. AI should have only one problem, not to create an advantage for the minority, but to find a way to solve the social economic gap and disparity that exists today. Any other stories that are going to be told about AI are going to be false. Now, I'm not going to repeat to you the stories that you are already reading, you're already reproducing, because I read your papers. All I'm telling you is to use your own voice to actually go against those. And using JIIPCC for you, it can be incredibly powerful in the right way. Let me tell you what's the right way. You are legal scholars. Bring as many legal challenge to the big boys as you can. Challenge everything they do. Challenge everything that you think is not relevant to your community. Challenge everything that you think they do that is actually a form of abuse, is another form of colonialism, is another form of non-inclusion. Right now, the world is very much in the midst of cultural reflection. It's an incredibly dangerous world out there. You have many discussions that happen in the West about gender equality, about representation. In the States, there's a incredibly important social movement, Black Lives Matter, Me Too. There's a lot of attention that is paid to minorities or to groups that want their voices to be heard. And you should capitalize on that using one of the most powerful tools, which is your legal instruments. And that's where JIIPCC becomes very useful, because it might be very difficult for you, for a lawyer in Nigeria, with the limited resources that you might have, to bring legal challenges to hyper-specialized lawyers in the States. Well, this is the novelty. JIIPCC can actually help you to write legal documents that constitute legal challenges in every kind of jurisdiction in the world. Just do it. Just use the tool to demand that you participate in all the tables where AI standards have been designed today, in every treaty where treaties among nations about the use of data to the advantage of this community. Demand participation. Demand to have these tools to be designed with cultural input from your communities. You happen to be the right community. You're the legal community. It's the most powerful community in Nigeria right now. It's not the engineers. You are the most powerful legal community, because you can create as many legal challenges as you want in all the jurisdictions. One, because you're trained. Two, because now you have tools that help you to translate your own knowledge into knowledge that becomes a challenge somewhere else. And third, because you will have sympathetic groups that will be very capable and willing to help you if you were to bring legal challenges for participation in everything that is relating to AI regulation, AI standardization, AI adoption, AI algorithmic bias, AI infringement of human rights, AI function. First and foremost, you should scream that AI should be designed to create equality. You should scream that AI should be designed to tackle sustainability problems for everybody. Otherwise, why do we need technology? If we only need it to perpetuate the dominance of a minority, well, that's cultural definition of technology. It's not the scientific definition of technology. The scientific definition of technology is that cultures use technology to solve their own problems. If they are true about the fact that we are one world and we have to think together, well, then AI should be first and foremost be designed to solve the most important problem on the planet right now, which is inequality, period. So this is my encouragement to you. The lecture was about social change and the positive impact. Well, this is my interpretation of what the positive impact of AI should be. And it's a call on you to act as a group. I mean, take this network that is just being created by this program and pull all your forces together in whatever form you can, sign those papers and send them to any kind of community that you think is relevant, demanding participation. All right. So we have, probably you've been informed that we have only 1 hour today because I have another commitment in 15 minutes from now, 12 minutes from now. And actually, is this a UN program that I was telling you about, where we actually are planning to have one meeting where we want to include the Global South. So this is a really powerful community. This group that I'm working with is this expert group, and we are creating. We are thinking of doing a meeting to include specifically voices from the Global South, and I'm going to recommend your group as one of the participants. So that's something I want to tell you. I also like to leave a few minutes for you if you have questions to ask.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Francisco, for the wonderful lecture. It was mind-blowing, it was educative, and we would do well to take your advice on all the areas you touched. So we learned that you have just 12 minutes more before you'll be leaving the meeting. I'll encourage our mentees that have any live questions to raise their hand while I call on them to ask you their questions immediately before you leave. I encourage anyone with questions to just raise their hand or maybe send the question into the chat box.
And remember, you're welcome to contact.
All right, Mr. Gabriel, I'll be calling on Mr. Gabriel to give his comments and also any question he has for he's also a mentor on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Lapeta. I would probably stay till the end of the program, but I just wanted to quickly commend you for your comments. And it's such a coincidence to meet you today because earlier today I was with Professor Tom Melham in Oxford, but he came from Berlin, so we met and we're discussing the same subject matter you've mentioned today. And just coincidentally, he mentioned your work on artificial intelligence and sustainable development. So I was reading it on the way back home and I was surprised to see you on the call. So I just want to say thank you for giving that very elaborate discussion on the issue of digital colonialism. As a matter of fact, it's widely being discussed and it's something that we hope can be fixed. It doesn't look very positive at the moment because, like you've mentioned, most of the technological improvements and currently are just from the global north. So it's more like an imposition on the global south. And there's a lot of dependency on these technologies from the global south. So we are hoping that that's probably going to be fixed in we're just being hopeful. But then thank you so much for bringing up that topic. And I wanted to ask, because you talked about, well, they said I'm also a mentor, but for today, I think I'm also going to be a mentee and ask a very quick question. What do you think, in your opinion, do you think the UN generally can do with regards to reducing the dependence of, because I think it's all about the dependence of the global south on Western technologies. Is the global north just really has to do nothing just to flood the southern market with the technologies. And since we have our own structures already having been built by the global north, it's very difficult to pull out of the system of that dependence. So what do you think the UN as a global institution can contribute to this disconnection? Thank you.
Yeah, so I've been for a period of time looking for an outlet where to have an influence, and my idea was to have a global influence, meaning that I didn't want to address specifically one problem or one community's problem. I was very much fascinated with this document called Our Common Future, which is the Brundtland's report that created the very term sustainability. And as an act of respect, I titled my own book, Our Common AI Future, right? So it's the acknowledgement of what I perceive to be the biggest, most influential global effort in the past decades on trying to move towards a global understanding, right? So naturally, you have to understand that I come from a very privileged position, right? I mean, I'm a white man, intellectual that lives in Italy, then studied in the States and then in London. But what my own experience provided is with a strong sense of justice. Now, justice, it's a transversal property. You might belong to any community, both the privileged and the unprivileged, and you can still have a profound sense of justice. You can still understand that you prefer to live in a world that is equal for all. And this can be experienced in the macro and in the micro. Now, in Italy, which is a micro community, okay, it can be characterized as one of the G7 countries, and of course, there's the privileges of belonging to a society, but it's also a society that is known for the corruption that exists in Italy. You're very well familiar with our most dreaded export cultural product, which is mafia, right? Everybody knows the organized Italian crime. I lived in a country where the distinction between good and bad was very clear to me. For anyone that lives in a corrupt country, you know exactly there's the people that decide to live on the side of good and the people that indulge into using their power in a very negative sense. It's emotionally and culturally a very clear distinction. It's a very clear concept, social justice, right? Now, if you look worldwide, there's very few outlets where all societies interact with one another. So the United Nations, despite the weakness, despite the inability to act, despite all the limitations, to me, it seems right now the only institutional global institution where all voices have a right to participate. So if I look at it as an exercise of diplomacy, if I look at it as the willingness of the good people in every community, and every community has good people, every community worldwide, we know that in every society, there's the people that understand a specific idea of morality and justice, right? So despite all the limitations, I decided that the UN was the right place where to participate, because they basically represent the ideals that I strive for. I think it would be very good for you to participate, and I'm going to create the opportunities for you to participate. But I honestly believe, given the specific community that you are, you know, the community that you represent in this virtual room, it's very, very important that you give strength to each other to understand that you have the voice to challenge the most powerful people in the world by telling them that you want to be listened, to bring simply the ability to participate. And let me make clear something. You don't need to have something to say, you know, because the argument is what can I contribute? Well, that's the wrong argument. Trust me, in many of the rooms of power where I am, people don't know. I mean, I'm informing politicians that have no clue what artificial intelligence is. But the fact that you're there and you can bring your voice, that you're listening, and then you contribute, and that you're in a position where you are able to tell your opinion, that's what we should demand. And you have the legal instruments to do it. So I'm thinking of you as a spirit of an incredible weapon for social equality. Organize your collective knowledge and your experience in the legal realm to understand who you should challenge and with what instruments, simply for participation. You start with sitting at the table, and then the things will naturally emerge, because once you're sitting at the table, you have the right to speak, you have the right to bring your opinion, you can represent yourself, but you can also represent your communities, you can represent the needs that your community embodies. So what I really strongly encourage you, please use this opportunity to think of one specific way to challenge the most powerful people in the world by asking them to participate. And if you have, let's say, I don't know how many people there are in this program, but let's say that 200 people participated, right? So let's say that 20 people, maybe even 10 write a document. All the others contribute, but you all sign, and you send this document to the British government, the European Commission, in the States, in Canada, in Japan, basically everywhere. Just simply do it in all the ones that you think are more relevant. In my view, it's European Union, UK, Canada, United States, India, and China, just for the sake of it. Just challenge it in every possible way, reach the community you want, saying that you need to participate. And you might not be able to, but you certainly have to bring that voice and protest, because you can. That's the reality. I think very few people in your country have the collective abilities of demanding with the right tools and the right voice participation. Olivier.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Professor Francisco. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Gabriel. I will call randomly one mentee to ask a question before we go. I can see Olivia Sadiq's hand is raised, so yeah, you can ask your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Francesco. This lecture has really been enlightening. It has really been enlightening. I'm actually a very big user of the artificial intelligence. Like, I mean, anything that makes life easy, you know, I'm delving into it. But then I have actually been experiencing, like, I'm not satisfied. I haven't been satisfied so far, you know, with the things I see. And then you explaining all this, everything you did today make more sense to me. So actually part of my questions, you have actually answered it, but I will just say it. So I wanted to ask, right, I have the zeal to really contribute to, since I have not been satisfied, fully satisfied, I'm looking for ways that I can actually contribute towards, you know, the information in artificial intelligence. Like, how do I participate? How do I start? You know, how do I create? Yeah, how do I start? I would like to be a part of it. Like, how do I start? Where is the first step? I would like to give more information. I would like to add more information to the already existing, or add more solutions to the already existing solutions. So I don't know where to start. I don't know how to start. So thank you.
To give you a banal example, as I said, the instruments that you have, which are rather unique, is the ability to engage with the legal dimensions. And if you were to bring an individual case, I think it would be a lot weaker than bringing a case as a community, collective community of people participating to this program specifically, right? And let's say that you write whatever document you have in mind, and you write it directly to OpenAI, and you make it public. So you say, we require to participate in a conversation with you about artificial intelligence representing, I would use a national argument, Nigeria, or if you are from different regions, as I hope, maybe you're not all from Nigeria, but you probably, even if you are, you have a network with other neighboring countries, friends, families, in other areas, other colleagues would be making even a stronger case, simply asking to participate directly, to visit them in the offices, to have a meaningful conversation where you can ask for questions in a public and transparent way, or to be included in any groups, research groups they might have, or focus groups they might have. This is just one, and do it methodically, write one document and send it to every possible AI developer or business that you see fit. So target anybody you think is relevant. It can be both businesses and governments. I would encourage you to do at least the latter, governments and specific businesses. Simply, as I said, the strongest case you have is to ask to sit at the table and to be able to tell your story, to ask questions, and to participate. And don't focus on formalizing what you want to contribute to. You simply say that you demand to be sitting at the table whenever there's conversations that are relevant to the development of whatever tool they have. Sitting at the table is the most powerful thing you can ask. And because asking for specific change, it brings the burden of change on you. You have to bring something that it's good enough for them to consider. So you're competing in again an even kind of fight, basically, because the level of expertise they have is such that it's very difficult from you, from the external point of view, to contribute or to challenge what they're doing. But the demand of sitting at the table or whatever public conversations they have, it's an act of participation and representation. And that leads to other things.
Thank you very much, Professor Francisco. Quickly, I just want to make this very quickly. Samuel, you can ask a question very quick before Prof leaves us.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Francesco. I have a question though. So, because I see some economic forces in play here, and do we always have to have, requests that we be included, speak truth to power, bring in our context? If is it something that is sustainable in the long run? Because if modern technology is developed, it's basically developed for those who can pay. So it looks like it's always going to be a battle where we're always, take us into consideration. And I don't know if is that something that is sustainable in the long run.
It is. Let me tell you, a lot of reflection went behind this recommendation. You need to trust me that I spend a lot of time thinking about this. Let me give you my conclusive remark here. Imagine you're sitting at a table of adults and you're discussing whatever, and something that is complex and problematic: violence, war, abuse, sexual abuse, or whatever it is. And then suddenly you have a different person sitting at the table. Let's say that you have a child that comes and sits at the table, right? It's 10 years old. The child doesn't know how to contribute to the conversation, correct? Do you speak in the same way? Doesn't the entire room change? The entire conversation around the table changes because there's that one person sitting at the table. It doesn't need to bring solutions. It doesn't have necessarily the skills to bring the solutions, but the very presence changes the way the other one will speak and interact with one another. That's why right now participation is the most important power that you have, because the very presence of representative of the global south at any table will alter the way in which the other talks, and that's all you want. It's the minimum. Of course, there's more you can do, but I'm thinking of actual, feasible, realistic way of changing the conversation. Just sit at the table. Once you're sitting there, trust me, the other 10 people will change the way they talk, because they will have to acknowledge your existence. They will have to respond to what they think you represent. And it's the power of silent participation in social interactions. All right, thank you very much. It was wonderful. I'm looking forward to see you more. So you can count on me on continue contributing and participating. Please feel free to reach me individually or as a group, and let me know if this is an idea that inspires you. And I hope to talk with all of you soon. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone that asked questions and everyone that contributed. We'll be moving on to our next mentor for today. We'll be taking an overview from our mentor, Mr. Kelly. I don't know if Mr. Kelly is on the call. The floor is yours to also throw more light and comments on the topic for today.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, great. Sorry, I can't join in via video. But I've been listening in, and it's been a great session with previous mentor, that's Professor Francesco. Yeah, the points he touched on were really elaborate, and I think I mean, from my initial thoughts, what I was going to share with you guys, it's still centered on values. So centered on values. So I'm not going to overstretch the issue, because I think at this point, the most critical conversation isn't even on actual implementation in terms of products and solutions for AI. I think the most critical discussion and conversation should be on the equity, the meaningful usage of the technology itself, because we're seeing over time, I mean, from the Rockefellers, the Standard Oils, and the way capitalism operated, we could see that it's left a lot of imprint, even to the point where electricity was supposed to be equally distributed worldwide, but because of capitalism and the need for pushing and fossil oil and all that, we see how that shaped the development of third worlds and first worlds and all. So for AI, I think AI is at that point where it's at that break point where it would leave a very indelible stamp on how future societies will operate. So I think that's why people like Professor Francesco are really on the edge on how we could ensure that there's a sustainable approach and equity for everyone before we even talk about implementing this, because people like Elon Musk have said, this is like releasing the demon. Some people are saying that this could be the end of the world. So there's that existential thing. So which is still centered on values. So for every of our approach to AI, I think real values should be there. That's to say, real human values, because when we allow the technologies and the systems that run around those technologies, which is capitalism now in this case, when we allow those things to take precedence, we see that human values begin to get lost. So yeah, so that's to say, AI might create more problems than it solves, going from this normal model with which the world works. So we have to first of all look at changing the model of the world before we think about, bringing in technologies that have the potential to create existential threats. So yeah, but I love the document sent in by both groups. I love the presentation of group one. It was quite detailed and touching on a lot of areas where this technology can be applied. Then on group two, I love their approach to really focusing on the security side of the issue and how they expanded on that. So yeah, but as you can see from the presentation of the previous mentor, that it is really difficult at this point in time to pinpoint where we can really apply the technology, which is AI now, in a local sense now, because we have to be realistic in our discourse. So saying how can we apply AI locally? What are the channels of utilization for AI locally? We see that even at this point, we haven't even gotten a firm grip on data collection or data management, this we're still talking about NIN registration. Even from our last election, we could see how data was very, it was brought to nothing. And recently there is even the issue of someone writing JAM and the result was missing, and how someone can go to JAM server and all. So we can see how porous our data system is and all. So even I think the solution we should be thinking about should be on even how to even ensure that we can properly manage and gather meaningful data. So we can start looking at applying those locally gathered data for solving local challenges. So I think I will leave it at this point. So if there are any questions, I'll be open up.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. We'll sure have questions from our mentees. I believe we have some questions also sent before the session. Before we move on to our mentees' brief presentation and also questions, I'll call on Mr. Gabriel to give us his comments and also his perspective on the topic for today. Or Mr. Gabriel Odo.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Hakeem. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Sincerely, I wasn't hoping to do any presentation today. I've been away from here for like a whole week, so I just got in, and then I got the message that, oh, it was today. I just decided to join very quickly, and yeah, then I looked at the presentations that were sent to me. Again, sincere apologies. I just read them like on my way back home. I was in a conference earlier this week. I got back into Germany and went for another workshop, finished this morning and started hurrying back home. I just wanted to see how I could catch up at least to be here for today. I'm sure we've talked a lot about areas where we can utilize artificial intelligence, and just like you stated in your presentation, one of those very important areas is in the use of artificial intelligence for security. And there are many forms of it in civil and military perspectives and civil perspectives. Though from what I've seen in the presentations that were sent to me, it seems there's a lot more, the approach is more on the civilian uses of artificial intelligence, those civilian security perspectives like policing and all those other things. Of course, like you've mentioned in some of your presentations, artificial intelligence can be really helpful in facial recognition, cybersecurity, and many other areas. But just like as the first two discussants have already mentioned, that one of the most important things we need to look at is because whatever we choose to use artificial intelligence for will be mostly dependent on what kind of technologies that we have. What artificial intelligence do we currently have, and how much do we know about the technologies that we have? Just like Professor Lakweta had mentioned earlier, one of the biggest problems we'll have in the applications of artificial intelligence. Now, this is something that It's not in this the presentations that you've sent, but I think it's very important. This forms like the foundation of this discussion. Why we do not really see the positive effects of artificial intelligence in trying to cope security challenges is, first of all, we need to look at the context. What kind of technologies do we have? And then that brings the issue of digital colonialism. When we just borrow technologies, sometimes we even borrow the legislations to regulate the use of these technologies, and we continue to contribute to the colonial framework of these technologies. Like the professor mentioned earlier, each time you just ask ChatGPT a question, you're improving, you're teaching the system, and you're teaching it in line with the original colonial framework. For instance, even the English language that we use. If you ask certain questions in Yoruba or Hausa, you're not going to get answers. If you use certain bad words in local Nigerian languages on Twitter, you will not be blocked because there's no actual recognition of some of those languages. And these are the major issues. Until we can get this foundation, we're still going to have difficulties implementing the proper use of artificial intelligence, even in security challenges. We are going to have lots of misuse in many circumstances. We already have that. So I'll certainly love to listen to all your presentations, and maybe at the end I'll take some questions if there are going to be any. But then I would also like us to think of how much we can contribute to the discussion and the very foundational problem, which is understanding what kind of technologies and what do we borrow with the technologies, what cultural problems come with those technologies. So thank you so much once again, and I'll try to be here till the end. I'm completely exhausted, but I'll try to stay till the end in case there are questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel Udo, for that contribution. Quickly, we'll be taking a picture session. We encourage all our mentees on the call. I can see we are about 30 to put on our videos so that we can take some screenshots. When we are posting on our social media platforms, we can also attach the pictures. So I encourage everybody to put on their videos and put on a smiling face for the camera. Thank you very much. As you do so, I'll be taking the screenshots within 30 seconds. I'm just taking them now. Smile, smile, smile. Thank you. All right, I've taken a lot of screenshots. Thank you very much to everyone that put on their videos, and for those that can't put on their videos. So I'll be giving the floor to Mr. Joseph Obo, my co-moderator for today's session, to continue from where I stopped. Mr. Joseph, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussein. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. I actually thought that Professor Francesco was, I'm still thinking about a lot of things that have been said on today's session. And I just want to encourage us to quite, we can, I don't even know if it's right to say that homegrown solutions, AI solutions, because like Mr. Kelly said, we've not even been able to solve the issue of data collation and data management. It just tells us the level at which we are playing in the global game as it is now. But I don't want to burden us with all my thought processes. I think we should go straight into the mentees' presentation. So it's going to take 7 minutes to 8 minutes each at the most. Please try and don't read your slides, just try and, I believe you've already gone through the slideshow as interesting as possible. So please, group one, kindly take the floor. Is group one ready for their presentation? All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, but your presentation is not open yet.
Okay. Just a moment. How about now?
Not yet.
We can see your presentation now.
You can see it now. Okay.
Maybe you can. Yes, we can.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abiodun Adinekonso. I'm making this presentation on behalf of Group 1, and our topic is using AI to solve socioeconomic problems. So, I'll try to be as brief as possible. Now, a lot has been said already about the concept of AI, and at this point, the concept is no longer strange to us, even though at some point it's something I found group interactions have been able to have a little bit of insight. I've been able to have a little bit of insight as to what AI entails. So the definition we'll be adopting for the purpose of our presentation is shows that AI is a combination of robust data sets that helps in solving problems. So it's just like a contradistinction to human intelligence. You know, when it comes to human intelligence, you know, there are certain things that human beings can do. They behave in certain ways. So translating this to artificial intelligence, it just entails giving a set of instruction and making machines software do what human beings naturally would have done, and in a more seamless and effortless manner. Now, we try to create a bullet point on things that might be put into consideration when developing AI programs or applications. You need to understand what the final users want. And this basically entails knowing what the problem you are trying to actually solve in this. To understand what the users want. Now, how valuable is this change that the solution you are providing? How valuable is the change going to be? Is it going to be a solution that will at the end of the day cause more damage than than problems that it has come to solve? So we also need to put into consideration okay, in a case whereby this application fails, what can we say? What can we set as our minimum standard? Like, what is the pickup point? How do we progress? How do we move on from this, from what we've achieved? Then another question we think that is important for AI developers to consider is what we do not want AI to do. You know, there are some certain level, there are some certain boundaries that normal human beings won't be able to cross, be it regulatory, be it technical. Now, it's also important that AI developers put that at the back of their mind when they are developing this software. So there are things that normal human beings would do, and it would be an infringement of legal requirements or regulatory prescriptions. So in that instance, AI developers should also bear it in mind that when they are developing AI solutions, they should ensure that these boundaries are set, and whatever solution they are providing does not transcend or breach regulatory guidelines. Now, moving over to the next slide, understanding what socioeconomic problems are. Now, it is not the case that we won't have certain challenges in in the society. I think the basic foundation of the society is that man cannot live in isolation, and from the interaction of one man with another man, the problems are bound to arise. Like there's a popular saying that one man's food is another man's poison. What a particular section of the society might feel they are comfortable with be might be a challenge to another cross section of the society. So in this regard now, the socio-economic problems abound. And in what cases are these, do we think we can resolve some of these sociological problems, socio-economic economic problems? Now, most of them that we've highlighted here, we've highlighted unemployment as some of the impacts of socio-economic problems in society. Where poverty is also one of them, educational skill gap, and what we have here. Now, we believe that with the trend that the world is going now, we believe that AI can be used to tackle some of these socio-economic problems that we have, those that currently affect our existence as a person, as individuals in the society, that affect even our mutual coexistence as a nation. So we believe that AI has the potential to help solve some of those problems, and we have tried to segment the sectors in which most of these socio-economic problems they occur. We have the healthcare sector, we have the agricultural sector, etc. We have the public service, we have banking. So to us, we believe that in the healthcare sector, with the recent trends in development of AI programs and softwares, we believe that there can be improvements in the healthcare sector, and this can be this will be made possible when we have a set of solutions that carry out diagnostics services, that carry out diagnostic services. We also have the prevalence of virtual assistants and chatbots recently for customer service issues, and we also have the issue of public health and epidemic management. So there are softwares that can help. There are softwares that can be used to manage public health. You collect data, and you know what you have knowledge about the medical history of patients, of citizens. So I know in advanced societies, it is rare for them to not have, for a particular hospital to not have access to your health records, because most times it's centralized, and this is made possible through the use of AI solutions and AI solutions and all. So we believe that AI can be used to also implement or make things easier in the healthcare sector. And when it comes to education, I think the involvement of, I think the application of AI in education cannot be overflowed. I think the basic one that is even more that we can easily relate with these days is the issue of JIIPCC. And where you use it for informed and better research. So it's basically the go-to software program for research these days. And I said earlier too, when it comes to virtual assistants and chatbots too, in educational sector as well.
You have a minute more. You have 1 minute more, Mr. Abdiogun. So you can just tidy up, you can round up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, I said you can begin to round up. You can just begin to wrap up.
Okay. I need to also make mention of agricultural sector. So the importance of AI. We can have softwares that helps us forecast the weather conditions, that they can also help with the supply distribution chain, help with the seamless distribution of produce from the farmers to the final consumers. And we also have AI in banking. Its softwares are used for financial planning. I don't think this is a novelty into the accounting sector. And so in the aspect of fraud detection and prevention as well, the importance of AI cannot also be overemphasized. And in the government or public sector, if there's any sector that AI needs to be deployed, I think it's even in the public service, because they deal with a very large section of society and deal with the enormous data. And we believe that AI will help with efficient delivery of services in that sector as well. And we've highlighted a number of challenges with AI in Nigeria. We believe that data quality, access to data quality, is one of the challenges of AI in Nigeria. And we know AI is data driven, and even as it stands in Nigeria today, we don't even have an accurate number of people living in Nigeria. I would believe if that process is even automated, it's the access to data quality and the access to data and how we can use it to tackle our problems and challenges would even be will be more reduced. Then cost and affordability is also another challenge. We believe that at this point in time, it's the cost of having access to AI to solve problems is on the high side, and also illiteracy is also another problem, and regulatory frameworks, laws you need to comply with and all. Now, we believe that in conclusion, most of these challenges can be we can overcome them if we take proactive steps to try to reduce the gap in the knowledge gap, and if there are more investment in research and development that would make most of these AI solutions readily available in Nigeria, such that it won't be a form of monopoly where a particular group controls the deployment or the development of all these AI solutions. So with better research into AI in Nigeria, we believe that the access to AI solutions will become more access to it will become easier, and it will become less cost effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Abiodun. I know that the time is really not enough to deal with all the issues or all the comments in your slide, but I really appreciate that everybody can swallow almost at once. So we would move straight to group 2. Is the presenter for group 2 ready? Before we take comments, please kindly go ahead. Thank you.
Mr. Biodon, kindly stop sharing so that I can share my screen. Thank you. Please kindly enable me to share, sir. Mr. Joseph. Mr. Biodon, kindly stop sharing your screen, please.
Yes, Mr. Abiodun has to stop sharing his screen before you can share yours.
Okay,
so,
thank you so much. Okay, wonderful afternoon, distinguished gentlemen and ladies. I'm truly honored to share with you this afternoon on the behalf of Group 2. My name is Benjamin Aduruja, and I'm here to share with you on utilizing artificial intelligence to solve security challenges. I believe you should be able to see my screen any moment from now. Okay, it's about to come up. Thank you so much for your kind patience. Okay, it's come up. So I'm going to talk about utilizing artificial intelligence to solve security challenges. Utilizing artificial intelligence to solve security challenges. Now I'll go straight to my introduction. And on the 11th of September 2001, one of the most devastating terrorist attacks attacks took place, when 19 militants of Al-Qaeda, hijacked 4 airplanes and they attacked the World Trade Center, they attacked the Pentagon, and then they were on the way to, the 4th plane was on the way to attack another place when the passengers on board, they had the tussle with the hijackers, and then the plane crashed somewhere else. But as you can see this on the screen, you can see the south tower and the north tower of the World Trade Center in fire. Within a few hours after these 2 airplanes hit the twin towers, the towers came crashing down. The total number of deaths from this terrorist attack was 2,996 people. 2,996 people lost their lives. Now, based on our own definition, we believe that AI, artificial intelligence, is training machines, intelligence machines, to be capable of reasoning, learning, and solving problems, and even making decisions like humans. And what are some of these critical security challenges that we have uncovered? We've uncovered, online challenges, and then we have the physical challenges, online security challenges, and then physical security challenges. Some of a vivid example of the physical security challenge is theft and burglary, while that of online security challenge is data breaches. Now, let's quickly talk about how we have been able to use AI to solve security challenges. Now, the first one comes with terrorist attacks and active shooter, incidents. These have been prevalent for the past few decades. And then after the advent of that attack on the Twin Tower of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, that was when AI now became, people started, the intelligence units of the US and some other developed countries decided to start using AI actively. And one of the areas in which they have used AI is to use it for crowd management, putting surveillance cameras, AI-powered surveillance cameras on the streets and in major parts of their cities. And then what they do is they're able to capture, facial, they have the capability to capture facial attributes, their facial recognition devices, and they're able to recognize whether someone has a gun on him or her and all that. So they're able to quickly, once there's a threat discovered, the AI will automatically send signal to the law enforcement agencies. And that has, to a large extent, helped to curb, terrorist attacks. Now, a vivid example is Osama bin Laden. Now, after the terrorist attack of September 11, 2001, the American intelligence body tried for over a decade to capture, Osama bin Laden, because being the head of Al-Qaeda, they believe that once they cut that head, Al-Qaeda will be practically, incapable of being as effective as they were. So for over a decade, they tried without success to locate him. They searched Afghanistan, they searched all over the place. They couldn't find him. Guess what happened? One of the AI-powered satellite cameras located him in the middle of Pakistan. They they found someone right in they were expecting that it would be in the desert, but it was right, it was living in the large compound right in the, out of the city of a city in Pakistan. And then time and again, they had asked the Pakistani authorities, please, we're looking for Osama. They said, we don't know. It's not here. So the AI-powered surveillance satellite cameras located him. To cut the long story short, they were able to, President Obama approved, an operation, and they sent Navy SEALs to that compound. It was a covert operation, and they were able to kill Osama bin Laden. This was powered by AI. Now, another example of a very, very significant, physical security challenge is traffic offenses and vandalism. In Nigeria, for some of us living in Nigeria, we know that we have so many, traffic offenders, people who do not care about, traffic, obeying traffic rules, staying on the lane, obeying traffic lights and all that. And we had so many chronic traffic offenders. Guess what happened? Cities like Lagos began to, install, traffic light, AI-powered, cameras. Now, you notice that the prevalence of traffic offenses has reduced because these people have, the citizenry, the drivers, especially the commercial drivers, now know that if they beat the traffic light, the camera can pick their, the number plate, and then they will be fined. And the minimum fine is, 20,000 naira. So to a large extent, AI is helping to curb traffic offenses. Now, another example is another vivid example of a physical challenge is theft and burglary. It's a very vivid and it's very common the world over. Now, AI-powered video surveillance, cameras are now being, installed in various places, houses, and all that. And anytime this AI-powered, camera, notices strange movements, discovers anything strange, it quickly sends signals to the security personnel, and they are now, they're able to be on guard. And this has, to a large extent, helped to curb theft and burglary. Now, let's quickly look at, utilizing AI in online security challenges. Now, the first online security challenge is phishing. Phishing, is quite prevalent the world over. When people try to deceive individuals, organizations into revealing sensitive information. Now we have AI-powered, detection devices, machine learning detection device that can help to, detect phishing, any email or any URL that contains any hanky-panky, something that's trying to, steal people's data and all that. AI has been used to forestall that. It has been used to a large extent to curb phishing attacks. Now let's look at data breaches. This is a very, very major, one. We have so many, we have so many crooks, so many people, we call them Yahoo guys in this part of the world, who are always looking at, stealing people's data, hacking into accounts and stealing money, hacking into bank accounts. The other day I read that some guys were rounded off in Djibouti. They were rounded off and then they were handed over to the police. Why? Because they had hacked into over 1,000 bank accounts and stolen the money of some of these bank account owners. Now we have AI-based biometric authentication systems now use facial recognition and fingerprint scanning, and this has to a large extent helped to curb the hacking of systems, and this has helped to a large extent curb, and it's still helping to curb data breaches. And then the last but not the least, when it comes to a major online security challenge is malware and viruses. We have so many guys, so many crooks, they can spam a system, they can spam, send virus to spam the system, and once you click on it, example is a mentor of mine who was sent a link, and then as he click on it, the thing just is automatically took over his WhatsApp, and the guy who these crooks, they started sending messages to all his contacts to send them, to send a minimum of 50,000 naira to a certain bank account. We have AI, powered antivirus software that are helping to curb this. Now, as I conclude, a major challenge, a major limitation in using AI is, I'm going to just mention one, privacy and data protection. This is very critical. Privacy and data protection. There is a lot of privacy concerns, especially the world over. A few years back, Meta, that is Facebook, was facing, there was a whistleblower that came up and said that Facebook was abusing people's data. Another example, I watched a documentary as I round off. I watched a documentary a few years ago where it was revealed that Google had access, because of the machine learning components of their apps and all that. They study everything, the way how you operate online, where you go, and all that. And then all of these things, you would realize that once you visit a site, and then maybe an hour later, you just go online and you start seeing certain adverts that have been tailored to the particular site you visited. These are some of the concerns that have been raised about the limitations of AI. In conclusion, whether or not we like it, security challenges will continue to will continue to take multiple faces and all that. Will continue to emerge, like I said earlier. So we're going to have myriads of security challenges. So it behoves of organizations and individuals and the government to continually implement robust security measures and stay updated on the latest security practices to mitigate these challenges. I thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so very, very much, Benjamin. Thank you. I found your presentation very, our mentor's comments. Mr. Kelly is no longer on the call, so I'll be calling on Mr. Gabriel to give us his brief comment, then we can call it a day.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you to the presenters, as Group 1 and Group 2, the two presenters. You did quite.
Mr. Gabriel, please.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
so we can hear you, sir.
Okay. I felt my voice was breaking, so I wasn't really sure. Yeah, so I like I said earlier, thank you so much to the presenters of both groups. I think you've covered quite a lot of things, especially I listened a lot more to the second presentation. The first one I was still not fully around, but I picked a couple of things which I wouldn't want to make too lengthy comment because we've spent a lot of time here today. From the second presentation, you've highlighted the major security issues. There are still lots more, but I think you've given the framework, the major ones that we have to look out for. Most of the others come under these. There are now so many numerous uses of artificial intelligence in solving security challenges. They come with their own security challenges. I think this is the main problem at the moment, because the technology you try to use to solve a problem also comes with its own problem, and then you need a better technology to fix that problem. So that's where we are at the moment. I want to point out something that struck me. You talked about artificial intelligence and you defined it. The definition was okay, but at some point, I think you mentioned the capacity to reason. And it's something that most specialists would not really agree with. And I wouldn't agree with that. I wouldn't say that artificial intelligence has capacity to reason. It's a box of ones and zeros, right? If I wish Kelly was here. I can't remember, but I think he's a programmer. He'll tell you what we see, especially those of us lawyers. We just see the black box and the capacity of the system, the outputs. We look at the functionality of the system and we define it with that. But when we look at the structure, computer neural systems are completely different. There are similarities, of course, but they are different from human neural systems. What we do, what we call reasoning, comes with a lot of considerations. That's the first argument. The second argument is that whatever you see a computer do, an artificial intelligence system do, is something that it has been instructed to do. Whether the instruction was at the design stage or at the use stage or at some point, but there has been, at the moment, we don't have artificial general intelligence. And even with quantum computing, it doesn't look like we're going to have that in the next couple of years. And so that's the one thing. We don't really use the word reasoning. but the capacity to execute certain functions in a manner that normally would require human intelligence. So if a human would need his intelligence to drive a car, and then AI drives a car. So it's about the function. What has it done? It has done something that a human would need intelligence to do. So that's what makes it artificial intelligence. But if you go into the structure, you'd realize that major differences here and there that make it almost impossible to say there's some form of reason. But all the same, thank you so much for your presentation. The first presentation also did quite a good job looking at socioeconomic problems, how AI can be used to solve socioeconomic problems. It's quite impressive to realize that, or to imagine that the bulk of the work must be done by the people who design the systems. But there is also this new perception that people who use the systems can contribute to this. I give an example. Most AI systems are, they use data, and there's machine training, and there's all of that. We talked about JIIPCC earlier on. A very large percentage, about 70% of the data on JIIPCC comes from users. So you see most of the hallucinations that occur with JIIPCC comes from the fact that somebody impute that information that way, apart from the ones that it scrapes from the way. When you ask JIIPCC a question, you must have seen a screenshot at some point where somebody asked JIIPCC, what is 1.1? JIIPCC said it's 2. And he said, no, it's actually 5. Because it's just a system, and it knows that you're more intelligent than, so it learns from you. If you can, pass the message properly, you retrain the system. There are people that feed the systems with false information. So, and our dependence on artificial intelligence also just makes the problem a lot bigger. And so I'm looking at it also from the perspective that we, the users, also have something to contribute towards fixing whatever issues AI would come with. And finally, they mentioned here in one of the slides that deployers of generative AI must be explicit about, the ethics and legal and other risk boundaries, and that they should operate within that. It's something we all wish for, but we have to look at the capitalist tendencies of people that make the systems, right? People make coffins, and they wish people die so they make money. This is the idea you need to have about capitalists, the big companies, the Microsoft and all that. If you listen quite closely to the news, they are doing away with their ethics groups. So if we depend on the solution that comes from, we are hoping that we can trust them, then we are never going to have a solution, because their primary aim is to make money. And if they have to step on your neck to make that money, they will do it. So I would rather think we should look at regulatory approaches. What can we do? What can governments do? How can we compel them to be responsible while making their money, while developing these systems? So once again, thank you for all your presentation. If there are questions, I'll just take them as they come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Gabriel, for your comments. I believe we have some questions, but before I take the ones in the chat box, I think Hussein sent me one question. I wouldn't know if any of our mentees here, if you have a question that you'd like Mr. Gabriel to attend to, please kindly raise up your hand and I'll call you up to take your question. Is there anyone with a question? Is there something you would like more clarification on? It appears we don't have any question at the moment. I don't know, can someone help me with, I don't know, I'm having some difficulty with my device. I'm trying to get to the chat box to read one of the questions Hussein dropped there. Or is anyone with an observation? Mr. John, it's like you're trying to say something. Can you unmute yourself? John, can you unmute yourself? Mr. John Aji, Can you unmute? You're saying something, we can't hear you.
Okay, I've seen a couple of questions that were sent also to my email. If I can very briefly attend to those ones, except there are other questions. So the first one, Mr. John, if you have anything to say, you could always just, when you unmute your mic, I'll stop so we can, take your question at any point. Yeah, thank you. So the first one was, can AI machines be compromised so as to pose a security challenge on the society? If yes, how could this be mitigated? The first part of the question, yes, definitely. I mean, we have software hacks. We have most of the cybersecurity threats today are targeted towards automated systems because with systems that are in default without a constant human element within it, it's more difficult to identify a threat. So if you look at the back door of artificial intelligence systems, you will see thousands, millions of lines of code. So for people that know how to manipulate these codes, they could do anything. There was news sometime in 2018, I think also in 2019, that AI systems could be fooled into, thinking that stop signs were actually green lights. They just add some stickers to it and do some recording on the background, so they could use this to cause very serious accidents on the road. They can also use it to do this. Ones they use it a lot in armed conflicts. They reprogram it to misidentify objects, especially with drones. So, for instance, Benjamin mentioned earlier how AI was used to identify the Osama bin Laden. People that could be reprogrammed, and it could misidentify someone as Osama bin Laden. And this has happened a lot of times. They just bury this information, but it happens. Misidentification, and the wrong person gets killed, and they just bury. They tell you, oh yeah, it was wrong. And this happens. Even in the Nigerian army, I remember some years ago, there was a strike in a school in one of the states in the north, and the Nigerian army came up to say, yeah, that there was a mistake with the system. It could have been a hack. These things are all possible, but I mean, we'll only know what they tell us. So the first part of the question, yes, it can be compromised, and it can be compromised very easily because there are so many people with the skills to do it. Now, if yes, how could this be mitigated? There are so many ways. First of all, for those who understand how these systems work, if you design a system, you could try to have as much security on the system as possible. Most of the systems we see today are done for commercial purposes, so they are quickly pushed into the market without the appropriate security frameworks on those systems, right? And secondly, or let me just say finally, we need to have regulations for some of these systems. 2 days ago, or is it yesterday, Meta just launched a new app, right? And many people ran into it. I don't have a Facebook account. I don't have an Instagram account because I know a lot of things that happen at the back. If you read their terms and conditions, you will be shocked at what they can do with your data they have. Now, on this, I've forgotten what they call, is it thread? So one of the major terms and condition of using thread is that they own your data. Once you upload it, they now own it. And now if something happens on thread and then you get off, then they block your Instagram account, or maybe also your Facebook account. So there are lots of things that these companies do in a bid to just make money. They are capitalists, they just have to make profit. So if we put regulations in place, it will fix that problem. It will also fix certain security problems. There are countries like China. China has a law against deepfakes. So softwares that you can use to reproduce deepfake pictures or videos are not even allowed in some of those countries. These are some of the ways we could curb it, but we also need to check those regulations to be sure that they are not extreme. They do not stifle innovation. We also need the innovative aspect of this technology. So I hope I answered that first question. The second one says here, if machines can be endowed with human intelligence and have the ability to make decisions that can affect others in the society, or do as well as they can, okay, or do they as well possess rights and responsibilities like that of humans? If yes, what would be the extent of such rights? Okay, first of all, we cannot endow machine with human level intelligence, right? There's human level intelligence is there are too many things involved in it. There are emotions like empathy, anger, that machines, you cannot teach machines, right? Or you cannot endow, let me use the word. You can actually teach them to react in a manner that a human reacts to certain things, but you cannot teach it to feel the way a human feels. So first, human intelligence is a very large component that only goes with humans. Even animals do not possess human intelligence. That's why you can shoot 3 cows are eating and you just shoot one of them. They just move away. That one falls, they come back there and eat. Or chicken. The chicken comes there, you throw a stone at it, you hurt it, you break the leg. It crawls back to that place and still feeds. So even animals don't have human level intelligence. And I'm not sure we can superimpose it. Even with quantum computing, it doesn't look like we can forcefully superimpose human intelligence on machines. So for that first part, no. Secondly, looking at the outputs, the fact that machines can do most of the things that we humans can do, they've been trying to do this. Should they be allowed to have rights to? Now, you wouldn't call that human rights because it's not on humans. Now, also the rights would be due to their capacity or the activities they are able to carry out. There are lots of discussions on this. We don't have sentient machines yet, machines that can reason, first of all. So the discussion on rights for machines it's been there for a long time, and I think it's going to be there for a long time. But we have to look at also the implications of giving rights to machines. If we say, example, I remember in one of the sessions we had, and we talked about Sophia, the Saudi Arabian robot that has been given the Saudi Arabian citizenship, right? Now, that as far as Saudi Arabia is involved, Sophia has more rights than some of us who don't have the Saudi Arabian passport, because it can be taken in or it can travel, unquote, in and out of Saudi Arabia without checks, but you can't do it. You are a human being, it's a machine. So many people look at it from that perspective. There are certain things that it is allowed to do, if you would call those rights, it's allowed to do because of the circumstances of its existence that you are not allowed to because the circumstances of your existence. It doesn't mean that they have more rights than humans, or it doesn't even mean that they need to have rights. The major perspective about AI should be that of property, right? And it's something I don't want to go into. It's a long-term discussion. But if you consider AI as a property, then we can talk about what can you do to my property and what should you not do to my property. So not in the, from the human rights perspective, but on the property rights perspective. If you are not allowed to just kill my dog because it barks too loud at night, then you should not be allowed to hurt my self-driving car because you think it parked wrongly. So this is the major perspective. It's not a human right perspective. It should be, I think, a property right perspective. That's the second question. The third one was considering the legal and ethical issues in the use of AI. Can it still be considered a tool that endures security where it is used for surveillance and at the same time infringes on the rights of person? Is AI not solving one problem to create another? Yes. AI, in most of its use cases, they're solving problems, creating new problems. And when we are trying to solve those problems, we improve by creating more machines and they come with new problems. So like I mentioned earlier, it's a very large loop. And I'm not sure there's going to be a break in that loop. We can only try as much as possible to reduce the impact of the negative impact of these systems on society. But as long as it's like driving cars. You can't ban cars just because somebody got drunk and drove and killed people, or because cars make noise. No, but you try as much as possible to ensure that the people that drive cars are properly licensed, use regulations. You try to put things in place. That's the first part. So if we try to completely to say, okay, let's stop the problems, it's like saying, let's stop society from moving. We're not going to have that. It's just the loop is going to continue like that. So we can reduce the impact, but we cannot completely stop it. What is the place of AI under the Nigerian legal framework? Sincerely, I wouldn't say I know. I don't know whether there's actually a place. That's a large discussion entirely. First of all, we look at the fact that I'm not sure that within the Nigerian legal system, we even understand what AI is. I'm not talking about the individual level. I mean, we all know we have a lot of information, but the Nigerian legal, our legislative systems do not, in all sincerity, understand what AI is, the impact, what it can do. We have a lot of discussions on data protection and all that, but data protection is like 2% of what AI can do. It's a very little aspect of it. And even the data protection regulations, or now we have an act that we have, they are very funny. I had a discussion with someone on Instagram, on LinkedIn, sometime last week or 2 weeks ago. He talked about a section, I think section 30 of the new NDPA, that requires identification for, and I'm asking, when we borrow laws like this, you're talking about having to properly identify or confirm the age of an individual before he's allowed to use certain systems. How do you confirm that? In Europe, the government can get your card or your phone and will tell you the day you were born, the hospital you were born in, the doctor that, or the midwife or whatever. They can get as far as information as they want because it's a proper registration system. So if they ask you for a card, some identification card, it's electronic. They can scan it and get that data. That's why they have that in their law. But we borrowed this law with the same thing. For God's sake, I don't even know where my birth certificate is. But you can get it. You can just walk into a local government office and say, give me something, and you pay money and you get it. That does not mean people change their ages every day in Nigeria. And we know this. So a 12-year-old can get some, get some card somewhere, edit it, change the date of birth to show that he's 22. It's your word against his. The requirement is that the person shows some identification that indicates that he is of this age and that within that age limit is allowed to use such systems. So we are just borrowing things. At the moment, we're scrambling for information on artificial intelligence. We don't really have a grasp of it. And sincerely, it looks like it's going to take quite a while because right now, we are struggling with political issues. It doesn't look like we are ready there yet. So I don't think, I know there are pockets of organizations here and there that begin to give, started having conversations about artificial intelligence and robotics and all that. But it's not gotten to the point that our legislative framework has adopted it into its own lawmaking. I also believe strongly that we are waiting for Europe to finish with their AI Act and then we just download it and forget the fact that we don't even have some of the systems that they have. Okay, so finally, the fifth question here is it true that AI has been successfully implemented in some countries for security? Yeah, it's true, many countries. However, considering the Nigerian peculiarities like power problems, illiteracy level, unemployment rate, and all that, is AI really the solution? No, AI is a solution, but it is not the solution. Our problems are 2D. We have political, religious. AI wouldn't even start. So we need to fix our political differences, our religious differences, and lots of things first before we start thinking of, okay, how do we use AI? We need to streamline the problem. For instance, when we start talking about insecurity, which insecurity are we starting from? Is it the guys that collect your phone on the street? Or is it Boko Haram that's wiping out communities? Or is it the police that stops you on the road and wants to check? Because as far as I'm concerned, that's also insecurity. If a police officer stops you and says, let me look at your phone, you look like a Yahoo boy. That's another form of insecurity that comes from the system that's supposed to provide security. So where do we start from? Is it when we have religious crisis? Is it, burning down markets and killing people? We don't know where to start from. We need to streamline the problems and say, okay, we are dealing with terrorism. How do we fix this? And then we go ahead with that. Or we're dealing with petty thefts and all that. So for now, it's not the solution. It can form a solution, one of it, but there are too many issues to just, downplay it into what only AI can do. I know it can contribute a lot. So thank you for the opportunity. I've seen some other questions. I don't know if we still have time for me to take it.
You could just take the last one that has to do with maybe scholarships. Somebody was asking a question around that, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Tokwe said it's tough and expensive studying AI application in robotics. Hence, there's need for scholarships, for sponsors and scholarships. Yeah, it's tough and expensive. But first of all, I think we negate or we downplay on the simple tools we have in our hands, right? The foundational instruction or information I had on AI, I learned most of it years ago from YouTube. I used to design softwares, but then that didn't just expose me to AI and all that stuff. I learned the foundations of AI when I first started, before I even started my PhD. I just went on YouTube, and there are so many of these free, materials to read and even have the primary information. I know we're thinking about certification. You need to have a certificate in this and that. Believe me, at some point, the certificate doesn't really count if you don't have, the information that's required. You don't have the skill, the experience and knowledge of these things. I see people do certification programs, they do this, post it on LinkedIn, do this. It's good to have the certification, sincerely. But I think on the first part, there are simple tools we could use to learn. There are some courses on Coursera that are free, but they are very extensive in this area, especially. Now, secondly, there are scholarships here and there. And then there are so many places where you could go to school, you could learn these things for free. There are countries that education is free. For instance, in Germany, I think also in Sweden, public education is free up to your PhD level. You can do whatever you want to do. You don't need a scholarship. You just need to be willing to learn. Be willing, because it's a very tough educational system. You have to read, study, and all that. Yeah, but basically, I agree it's expensive at some point, but there are cheaper ways of learning the same thing and getting the same knowledge. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Gabriel. Your intervention in the AI program that JIIPCC runs over the years, we cannot necessarily take that for granted in any way. So I just want to say a very big thank you to you. To Group 1, Group 2, thank you for your intervention, your presentations. I also want to use this opportunity to appreciate Professor Francesco Lapenta and Mr. Kelly for gracing today's session. This is week 1. I would want to enjoin all the mentees in the program. There's so much personally that I've picked up in today's session. Please just do a short brief of what you picked up today. You can post that on LinkedIn or on any social platforms. And I would also encourage us, Lapenta talked about coming under like a group. People shouldn't have the mindset of going certain distances alone. So I believe that JIIPCC would also have to rethink its own strategy for engaging at that level. And JIIPCC would definitely not be able to do this without the collaboration of the mentors as well as the mentees of the program, so that if a decision is around having to step up conversations at higher levels, it would have to be by virtue of a larger group of like minds that are looking forward to the same goals and aspirations. So let's just keep that at the back of our minds. Let's keep thinking that through. It's been nice to connect with us on LinkedIn. Please let's follow each other, basically. Mr. Gabriel is on LinkedIn as well. Kindly reach out to him. Professor Lapenta also is somebody that you can easily send a DM to if you have any concerns or any issues. That's one of the benefits of the program. Just introduce yourself that you're part of the JIIPCC program. Any of our mentors, you can easily reach out and connect with them. You never can tell what opportunities could be available that you could take advantage of. Finally, Mr. Hussein, thank you so much for starting the moderation of the program. I want to wish each and every one of us a very, very wonderful and safe weekend. If you don't have AI protecting you, then you need to protect yourself. That was on a lighter note anyways. Yeah, so hopefully we would see you again next week. Kindly post what you've learned on the group so that we can share and we can make comments. Personally, as many posts as I see, I share them. I know I've shared certain things for certain people and certain people have connected with certain people. So that's just how this whole interconnection really works. So it would be nice for you to put your thoughts out there, begin to put yourself out there as somebody who really wants to add value in the field of AI. And that could form the foundation for you to begin to prepare yourself to assess certain opportunities that are available in the field. So I encourage all of us to really take a deep dive into what we're doing as regards this program. And finally, thank you very much for staying till the very end. Thank you, sir. Thank you to our mentors. Thank you to our mentees. So this is where I say goodbye. If you want to still hang around on the link, it's still very fine. But for me, I'm almost checking out. All right. Yeah. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.